The final step of any hypothesis test is always going to be our conclusion, and with any conclusion, we will always compare our p-value to our given significance level. Our significance level is commonly represented with the letter alpha, and we tend to use an alpha of 0.05. What this means is we're willing to say 5% is our cutoff. There are two things that can happen here. A, we can have a p-value that is greater than 0.05. This means the chances of this happening are more than 5%. That is, given the circumstances, even if he's innocent, there's still over a 5% chance this could happen. May have 10%, may have 15%, may have 20% chance. If there's over a 5% chance that this could happen anyway, then what we say is that we fail to reject. We're failing to reject specifically our null hypothesis, that is our assumption, because in reality, there's over a 5% chance that it could happen. In these cases, then we state there is not enough evidence to suggest whatever we're trying to prove. So that is, we'll go ahead and we'll use this general form, and then we'll fill in whatever we're trying to prove right here. So if we're talking about our trial by jury here, essentially what we're saying is we fail to reject the idea that they're innocent. That is, there's just not enough evidence to suggest that they're guilty. Notice nowhere in here do I say 100% they're innocent. I just say there's not enough evidence in this one trial, in this one study, to suggest what I'm trying to prove. This is if p-value is greater than 0.05. If my p-value is less than 0.05, we conclude basically the opposite. So, for a p-value less than 0.05, we actually reject H0. We reject our null hypothesis or our assumption. We can then claim that there is enough evidence to suggest whatever we're trying to say. We'll fill in right there. For instance, once again, if this is a trial by jury, what we're saying is there's less than a 5% chance that all these circumstances would line up if the person's actually innocent. So, chances they're innocent look really, really small. We therefore reject the idea that they're innocent. There is enough evidence to suggest that they're guilty. Now let's go ahead and try a couple examples of this. For our first one here, all I'm going to do is give us our p-value. Let's say we have a p-value of 0.023. Well, if our p-value is 0.023, the only thing we have to do in order to reach our conclusion is compare our p-value to 0.05. In this case, our p-value is 0.023, and we can see right away that 0.023 is less than 0.05. That is, there's less than a 5% chance this would happen. That means we'd go ahead and we'd reject H0. That is, there is enough evidence to suggest whatever we're trying to prove. Let's go ahead and do another one now. Let me say that our p-value was 0.26. Once again, we always compare our p-value to 0.05. In this case, our p-value is 0.26, and 0.26 is obviously bigger than 0.05. This is like saying there's a 26% chance that would happen. If it's greater than 0.05, we fail to reject H0. If we're failing to reject H0, there is not enough evidence to suggest what we're trying to prove. So once again, fifth step, the conclusion, might be the simplest step we have. All we do is we compare our p-value to our significance level, which most of the time is going to be alpha equals 0.05. If our p-value is bigger than 0.05, we'll fail to reject. There's not enough evidence. The probability is too high that this would just randomly happen anyway. If our p-value is less than 0.05, though, we reject H0. We say, okay, the probability is really, really small that this would happen. Therefore, we could say there's enough evidence to suggest whatever we're trying to prove.